Hello, I am Jacqueline Ortiz, aka the Self Love Diva. How are you? I'm also the host to the Self Love Diva show, which is all about skyrocketing your levels of self-confidence, self-love, and self-worth so you can attract that healthy, loving, passionate, juicy relationship you've always craved. And if you want to find out more about me, you could at selflovediva.com. But in the meantime, I am super thrilled to be here with Jess Bonasso. Hi, Jess.
Hi, how's it going, honey?
Awesome. Well, Jess Bonasso, otherwise known as a self-care goddess, which I thought we were talking before how cute it was. She's a self-care goddess. I'm the self-love diva. So it's a perfect synergy. It's awesome. I love it. So anyway, she's a self-care goddess and is a burnout rescue coach, author and speaker for the modern day workout, worn out Wonder Woman. Having personally overcome the saboteurs that led her to burnout, experience the high-achieving corporate professional and as a high-working fast-work entrepreneur wearing all the hats of the business owner, she knows firsthand what burnout feels like and what it takes to break free from it. As a result of overcoming her own personal challenge in business and in life, she created the Burnout Rescue, a powerful 6-part feminine hero's guide that teaches women out of working out Wonder Woman and lots of Superman too, and how to save themselves from saboteurs that lead to burnout so they can rise bravely when they fall, reclaim their time and energy, and live their best brave life without sacrificing their soul, sanity, or health. In addition to teaching others how to overcome their own hero, Jess is also an accredited practitioner of the Journey Method, a highly effective form of cellular memory release therapy that has the power to resolve the root level at any emotional, physical, and mental saboteurs that sabotage one's greatness. And today we're going to talk about how to heal your life and how to release the saboteurs to limit yourself in life and in love. So are we ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am. So tell me, what got you so motivated in helping women and men to learn to be their own best superhero and stop burnout?
Well, my story starts when I was in the corporate world, which has been a long time since I've been in the corporate world. I've actually been in business now for a little over 12 years, but prior to that, I was in the corporate world for 13 and a half years. So in the first part of my life, like my 20s and early 30s, I was working my way up the corporate ladder and just climbing my way up as fast as I could. All in the pursuit of as much financial prosperity and abundance I could put my hands around. And so I was working, 50, 60 hours a week and literally went through burnout. I mean, it literally took me going into a state of complete breakdown with the burnout before I really understood what was going on and realized that for me, it was all about me realizing I needed to take back responsibility for my life and stop being the victim and start taking ownership over the choices and decisions that I was making about my health and about my career path and about what I was choosing to, I guess, be my definition of success. You know what I mean? I had to redefine that. So that's kind of where it got started. And I went through burnout very heavily in the corporate world. I was 40 pounds overweight. I was dealing with anger management issues. I dealt with some depression over the years that I'd been on medication for both the anger management and the depression issues. And then I was also dealing with chronic low back pain to the point where I was actually considering surgery. And that's how I found out about the journey, was I had a friend of mine who was doing some energy work on me one day and said, Jess, I don't think this is physical, even though there's some physical stuff going on for you. She's like, I think there's something emotional. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? Like, that was like my first experience of the mind-body connection and that your emotional state could actually alter your physical state. And so it opened up a whole new world for me. And I started to learn about quantum physics and cellular memory and how that shows up in the body and, how it can lead to physical and emotional disease. And so that's where I ended up reading the book, The Journey by Brandon Bays, was trying to heal my back. And after reading her book and her story about how she healed herself of a tumor the size of a basketball and how it was associated with just an old memory from her childhood that she'd done some healing work around, I was just astounded by that. I found a Journey practitioner, went to an introduction workshop that she held, and then within a period of a few short weeks, I was actually doing the work with this practitioner, 2 sessions over the course of the weekend, and it literally transformed everything for me. It completely, I got off all the medication I'd been on for anger management, depression. My back was 75% improved within a 3.5-week period. So that was kind of where my journey with like all of the cellular memory stuff and healing work got really kind of concretized. And I realized that I wasn't happy. I needed to create a new definition for my life. And that's where I sat down and got really clear about what I really wanted. and knew that I didn't want to be in the corporate world anymore. Had no idea how I was going to make my way out of it, but I sat down and envisioned a business for myself that was going to basically revolve around self-care, because that was the thing that was missing for me. And I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to become the self-care goddess. Like literally, I knew then that the self-care goddess was a part of me. I had to become her to save my life. And so she's like my inner hero. That's really what the self-care goddess is.
I love that.
Yeah,
That is
my inner
beautiful.
Yeah.
And your superhero is you, which is amazing. That's beautiful that you can see that the superhero is all within you anyway, right?
Like
It always was.
Yeah, she's my highest, best, bravest, most wisest self. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, well then I've got to start acting like I'm in alignment with my highest, best, bravest self. And then that's when everything shifted. So
I love that. We all need to do that. Tap into our highest, wisest, most beautiful, loving self of ourselves, our inner goddess. I love that. Love it. So you say that we trap emotions in our body at a cellular level. How would that work? And how can we stop sabotaging or release some of those cellular memories so we can heal relationships in our lives?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, first of all, I just want to say that there is not a single human being on the face of this planet that does not have cellular memory patterns in place. So it's just something that's a part of us, right? And really what cellular memory is, it's like a cellular memory imprint of something that we've gone through in our life that could be traumatic. So it could be on the negative side, but it can also be something that was, maybe it was a hero moment that we went through, or this moment in time. Like I like to describe how you would know when you have a cellular memory pattern. There's a couple of things to think about. Number one, if you've got like, let's say for example, you have this old memory of making apple pie with your grandma, and you walk into a bakery and it smells like apple pie, and all of a sudden you get this warm fuzzy feeling over you, and you get a flashback to that time when your grandma was showing you how to make apple pie and eating your first bite, and it's like this warm fuzzy ooey gooey feeling that comes over you, and it's just this very nostalgic moment in time, right? Well, that's a cellular memory imprint of something positive that happened in your life. Same thing. Let's say you're flying on an airplane and, it's a bumpy ride home and you get freaked out and maybe you guys almost crash or something like that. The next time you get on an airplane, your palms start to sweat, your heart starts to race, your breath starts to shorten. Again, that's a physical body response to a cellular memory imprint, a pattern that got imprinted during a moment where you were afraid or traumatized in some way. So we all have these imprints, right? And that's when I first read the Journey book by Brandon Bays. This is where I started to learn about this. And she quotes a lot of the leading experts in this field, like Dr. Candace Pert, who was part of the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? She's talked about cellular memory. And one of the things that she talks about with cellular memory is that really at the end of the day, the reason why these cellular memory imprints stay stuck in ourselves is because we as a culture, we are not very well equipped to handle our emotions. When we feel emotions that don't feel good, we tend to resist them and ignore them and avoid them.
Suppress them.
Or suppress them. Yeah, we develop a lot of strategies to not feel what we're feeling. And the problem with that is that emotion is energy in motion, literally energy in motion, right? And if we're not processing that somehow, and moving through that, then it's just going to stay stuck in ourselves. And over time, that imprint's just going to get concretized over and over again. Each time we have another memory or scene in our life that reminds us of that trauma or that other that positive memory, we're just going to keep concretizing that. And so the key is with cellular memory is to figure out, like, where are my cellular memory imprint triggers? Like, what are the things that trigger me the most? The things that I know I shouldn't be doing, but I still keep doing every single time. That typically will tell you what a cellular memory imprint is. And if you can go in and do healing work around that, and these are things like limiting beliefs, unhealthy behaviors you might be engaging in, disempowering ego patterns and fixations, like the urge to be overgiving, for example. That could be a cellular memory imprint that came from childhood, where you learned somehow or another that you had to give, and you never took care of yourself because maybe your mom didn't know anything about that. She was a single mom and she was working her little hiney off. So you never had it modeled to, right? And so you now become an overgiver. That could be a cellular memory imprint. So there's a lot of things that show up as imprints, and we want to try to work through those and heal them as they come up and as we become aware of them.
Okay, so let's say I have triggers, some emotional charges, and we start looking into them and start seeing something, a pattern, something that happened when we were younger, usually probably before the age of 8 or something like that. Now what do I do with them? I'm like, all right, well, what do I do?
Yeah, so one of the things that Dr. Candace Pert talks about is, she says, because energy and motion is part of the key, if you are giving yourself permission to really feel your emotions and like really feel them, not be in victim mode about it, but just like give yourself permission to feel what you're feeling, right? And so sometimes we can't do that in the moment. We might have to maybe go make time for it later when we're in a space where we can do that. But if we just gave ourselves permission to feel what we're feeling, what happens is that energy and motion, then it allows that cellular memory imprint, it allows the cell walls to open up, and the imprint actually will move out of the cell. And then the next generation of cells, when it regenerates, it'll regenerate without the cellular memory imprint in place. So there's a couple of things. Feeling your emotions is very important. Processing them, very important. Giving yourself permission to really feel it. I always tell my clients, you know, that old phrase, what you resist persists. So if you're resisting feeling fear, if you're resisting feeling anger, if you're resisting feeling shame or guilt or any of those things, like really give yourself permission to feel them so that you can process it. That's one tip. And then the other piece is whatever scenes or memories come up around those emotions, around those those feelings that you're having. If there are any other times in your life where you felt this way before, if you can go back and using a journey practitioner, you can actually do this work. Go back to some old scenes and memories where you may have felt that way before, that triggered before, and do healing work around that imprint and whatever that old scene or memory was. And what I mean by healing work, I mean just in general, it sounds really simplistic, but the work that I do, it's all about forgiveness. It's about going back in time and really having a dialogue with the person who may have hurt you or harmed you in some way, shape, or form, and getting to a point where you can understand why that needed to happen and actually how it's of benefit to you to have had that happen. What's the gift in that experience? What were you meant to learn? What were the core values you were meant to gain? What were they going through? Helping you really understand at a deeper level why it had to happen and play out the way that it did, so that you can come to a place of complete forgiveness, not just with the other people involved, but with yourself for the choices and decisions that you've made since then, because of beliefs that you've made and decisions you've made as a result of that experience. So it can be really, really powerfully healing. And that's I think why I had such a shift with my physical back. I mean, I've been trying acupuncture and chiropractic care. I've been trying everything. That's why I was considering surgery. So for me to walk away and have a 75% improvement in my back pain in just a 3.5 week period was pretty mind blowing, because I've been working on healing my back for at least probably 8 years at that point with very little results, let's just say. So yeah, it's really powerful. It's very, very powerful to be able to do that.
I absolutely can believe that, because like you said, what we resist persist, and forgiveness is so powerful, because that, just like you said, it stays in our cellular level energetically. We just keep that in there.
Yeah, it's like resentment. We hold on to it and it just gets worse and it grows and it festers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I always give the analogy. It's like you taking poison, expecting the other person to get sick, and you're the only one hurting yourself. And people think, oh well, I can't forgive him. I can't forgive that ever happened, but forgiveness is not condoning. Forgiveness is actually setting yourself free. Will you agree?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. A big part of this, it's not about forgiving the person for their actions necessarily. It's forgiving them for doing the best that they could with the resources they had at the time. Because here's the truth. We're all hurt. We all have self-sabotage. We all have these patterns and we all have trauma. We all have it, right? So a lot of times people, quote unquote, misbehaving, as you know, those who like to judge would say, it's usually a result of their own pain. And if we can start to understand that whatever somebody else is doing to us isn't really about us, it's really not at the end of the day. And we can start to learn from those experiences and gain wisdom from it. We can actually transform those experiences and have every single setback, challenge, dark night of soul experience we've ever had. We can actually have that be a benefit to us and have that be part of our purpose.
Yeah, I love
mean,
that.
I'm doing Burnout Rescue with all of my clients right now because I went into such a degraded state of burnout. My pain became my purpose, and it's now part of my life's mission to basically help every single worn out woman on the face of this planet learn how to save themselves from the saboteurs that lead to burnout. Because I truly believe that women, if we can learn, like, and I love that you're the Self Love Diva, like self-care is the path to self-love. Right. So that's why I became, quote unquote, the self-care goddess, is because I knew that for me to really, truly love myself unconditionally, wholeheartedly, that I had to take care of myself. So self-care was the path for me to come back to that place of wholeness and self-love. Right. And self-care is so much more than just, saying I love myself. It's like your physical wellness, your emotional wellness, your mental wellness, whether you're happy in work, with your wealth and prosperity, your family, your friends. Like, there's like 12 different areas of your life that I look at when I'm working with clients. And it's about creating wholehearted living where you're taking care of yourself all around the board, like really filling in all the parts of your life that are missing. And I wouldn't have come to this if I hadn't been grossly ignoring that in my own life. I mean, all I was focusing on at the time was career and wealth and prosperity were my two primary focuses. Everything else I ignored.
Yeah, it's true. We need in every area of life. It's not self-care. It's not just about bubble bath and stuff like that and candles. It's living it wholeheartedly in every area of your life. So that way you have like a synergistic approach to self-care. And I love that. So I'm assuming with all the burnout, a lot of it is very important. It's not just forgiving someone else for what they did to you, because they were also in pain and they also have their own lessons. And like you said, we should be grateful for the lessons we learned from that particular situation or person. But I am assuming you also believe in a lot of forgiveness, self-forgiveness.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's part of it. When I do process work with clients, the journey process work, it's really about coming to forgiveness in a very wholehearted way. It's not just having forgiveness for the other person. It's really saying, okay, and are you willing and open to receive forgiveness in your heart for yourself for making the choices and decisions that you made at that time? And, there have been processes that I've gone through myself where I had to go back and process with my old self, like my younger self. Because I was pissed off at her, and I had to empty out and do dialogue with younger me because I felt like she was the cause of all my pain and suffering. So it's not always about going back and healing your relationship with somebody else, although that could be part of it.
Relationship within yourself too.
Yeah. So it's a big part of it. Self-forgiveness.
And forgiveness, am I correct? Forgiveness is not about condoning it or accepting it. It's about forgiving, letting go, but that doesn't mean you ever put yourself in a situation with others or within yourself. Like, for instance, self-care, never again.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. If you can learn from your mistakes, then you know what not to do next time. And at that point, you are empowered with the tools to take back control of your life, because you're not going to make the same mistakes again. Let's hope not, anyway.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
And if you do, you'll just keep making the mistakes until you finally wake up and get it. I mean, like, I can't tell you the number of times where I've been like, okay, I did that again, and it still doesn't work. And when am I going to learn my lesson? And then I have to just be more disciplined and more diligent about how I show up next time. So I'm always learning from that experience. And again, part of taking back control of your life and becoming your own hero is about doing a very honest assessment of what's not working, which means really doing an honest inventory. What are my bad habits? What are my limiting beliefs? What are the behaviors that are holding me back? What are the ones, and that's why I work with women with burnout, because every ounce of burnout that's going on is either a result of sociological, like, programming and conditioning, or psychological programming and conditioning. It's how we were raised, what we were taught to believe as a society and by our friends and family. And if we're not taught how to make ourselves a priority, which most women are not, it's a foreign thing, especially since we've entered the workforce. Who has time for self-care? We've got to go out and like run the world right now, right? So it's like all this pressure to like go out and act like and think like and be like a man. But we're not. We're different, and we have to fuel our body. So I use the healing work in conjunction with teaching people how to overcome burnout and resiliency training. I use a combination of those things, because you can teach somebody how to be more resilient, but if they haven't gone in and done that deeper dive healing work to let go of those traumatic cellular memory patterns, they're going to keep doing the same thing over and over again, even knowing that they shouldn't be doing it 9 times out of 10. So you've got to combine the two.
So I love that. So basically, we get awareness, we heal, we release at a cellular level, release all that, and we repeat the pattern. I'm assuming you agree with me. The most important thing is awareness, not beat yourself up, but just like you said, just go from where you were, get back up, and just do better and forgive yourself and love yourself without beating yourself up. And then implement different techniques or strategies for burnout. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I do with my clients. It's like a combination of the two.
So can you expand on the burnout then?
In terms of how I work with my clients, or what?
Yeah, but well, I think we all know pretty much what burnout is. We most of us are experiencing some term of burnout. But then let's say we come to you and we have some kind of burnout. What are some of the strategies, some of the things you could take us through to just regroup?
Yeah. So the system that I've created, the Burnout Rescue, it's a really unique approach that I think it is actually something that will work not just for women who are struggling with burnout, or men who are struggling with burnout for that matter, because that can happen too. But it's really about how to become your own hero. That's what the system is about. And so there's like 6 steps that I take people through. And the first step is, like I said earlier, getting really clear about what are your saboteurs. What are the things that are holding you back? So I take people through an Enneagram assessment, which is a personality system that's really powerful for helping you see where your disintegrated patterns lie. Like if you were an overgiver, for example, or an overachiever. Like for me, I was going to 3 on the Enneagram, and I was in overachievement mode when I was working in the corporate world. And they're very prone to workaholism, and that's what I was doing, right? So that workaholic pattern, which is part of my inherent personality type, was what was running the show. And now I've had to dial that back and be more disciplined about taking care of myself instead of being achiever, right? So I get really clear on what the saboteurs are in the beginning. And then the second thing that I do is I have them go through and I fill out a self-care assessment to see where are you now. Get like an honest assessment of each area of your life on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being extraordinary. How would you rate each area? And then I have them go in and figure out what is it that's missing, because the pieces that are missing are what they would want to have in place, right? That's their deepest desires. And then once we have a clear picture of what their deepest desires are, we kind of zone in and look at, okay, out of all these things that are currently missing, if we were to implement something, what needs to be priority? What's the thing that's going to make the biggest difference overall? And we pick a handful of like priority type activities that need to be included, and we start to build in self-care rituals to really foster those areas and to bring those areas into fruition, to help you start to fill in those areas. And then in conjunction with filling in those areas, we're also doing healing work on the saboteurs that you just identified as well. So you're getting both at the same time. And then I also teach in that system basically how to create a strength training program that makes yourself a priority, how to create time and space in your calendar so that you actually have time for self-care, because most women are usually overcommitted and they just don't have enough time. There's not enough time at the end of the day. So teaching them how to work smart, like using the 80-20 rule with everything. How can I manage my energy more effectively? How do I manage my time more effectively? So there's some time management stuff in there, but it's really, at the end of the day, this one of the secrets to the burnout piece is it's all about the energy management. If you're paying attention to what your body's telling you, because your body is a barometer for your soul. If you're tired, listen to that. If you're angry, listen to that. If you're sad, listen to that. Your emotions are a barometer. Your physical well-being is a barometer. And for me, when I start to pay attention to that, I can always go, okay, I'm feeling really sore, or I'm feeling really stiff. I'm feeling really tight. I'm feeling really frustrated. Whatever it is, 9 times out of 10, it's usually because I haven't been very diligent about my self-care practices. So when that happens, I just go back to saying, okay, what is it that's missing right now? What do I need to get back to? What self-care practices are going to help me refuel and recharge? And how do I set up my calendar and my schedule in such a way where I'm load balancing those energy draining activities that maybe still have to get done, along with energy fueling activities? How can I actually, plan my calendar around my energy rather than how much time I have in a day? It's a very different conversation and experience to go through life looking at it from that perspective. And that's really important for women. So all of that stuff I teach in my program. And then the last thing that I teach in my program is, here's what I found. If you're not connected to your deepest core values, your passions, your purpose, and your mission in life, it's going to be really hard to get back up when you fall down. It's much harder because you don't have a bigger vision beyond just filling in your life. You don't have something driving you. So that's another part of the thing that I think is really important. And also, again, in order for you to step into your greatness as a hero and figure out who your inner hero is, that's where your superpowers lie, is in your core value system, your honor code, for example, or your code of ethics, for another way of saying it, and in your passions and in your purpose. And if you have your self-care practices in place, with all that in place, and that you're balancing that in your life, you're going to have a much more fulfilling life. It's going to be more purposeful, more meaningful. You'll be more intentional about how you show up. You'll be more self-disciplined. It's kind of like the cherry on top of the sundae, so to speak.
I love that. Absolutely. Yeah. It brings you that playfulness, that joyfulness, and that gratefulness. I say it's part of being that attracts everything you want into your life from the inside out. So I love that. So you become a beacon for what you want by having some kind of purpose and joy in your life.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, me deciding that the self-care goddess was my inner hero and that I wanted to be the change I wished to see in the world. That's one of my favorite quotes from Mahatma Gandhi, and he was all about integrity, right? If you're gonna become your own hero, you got to be in alignment and integrity with the core values that mean the most to you. And so self-love is like one of my core values. It wasn't for a long time. It was the complete opposite end of the spectrum. But because I had ignored it for so long, I know now it needs to be in place. So self-love is one of my core guiding principles, and that self-care piece is just a path to that.
Yeah, to me, self-love is the foundation for everything in life. It's for everything, emotional, mental, physical. Because once you learn to love yourself and really be authentic, like you said, and integrity, then your values, everything comes into play, and you're wholeheartedly enjoying and living a life worth living and celebrating. So to me, self-love is a cornerstone foundation that brings everything into alignment in your life.
I agree. Awesome. I would even go further than that, Jackie. Honestly, I would go further than that and say, I agree that self-love is very important for us as a human race to evolve. But I also know, love is, I think, what makes the world go round. And I know that sounds cliche. I know that.
No, that's what I say. Yeah.
But as we heal ourselves, our vibration and our frequency will rise, and the more of us that are practicing that, there comes a tipping point at a certain point where if enough people are vibrating at a high enough energy level, there can be, and it has been proven, like there's a theory called the 100th Monkey Theorem. I encourage anybody who's interested to look this up. But it taught the whole 100th Monkey Theorem is about at a certain point, there's a tipping point. And when enough people are doing X and thinking X and feeling X, then there's an energetic shift where the entire population literally will have an energetic shift at a cellular level. So when we talk about cellular memory imprints and how to heal these, really at the end of the day, my goal is to help you get back to love, right? It's to help you get back to the source, back to oneness. And in that place of oneness, we can find compassion, empathy, and understanding and forgiveness for ourselves and for others. And in that place, that's where collaboration can happen. That's where ascension can happen. And we can change the world at a much bigger level. So yeah, I'm all about self-love.
That is extraordinarily powerful. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I mean. It comes from the inside out, and it just projects out into the world. And you may say it's cliche, but to me, that's how I live my life. I believe love is what makes the world go around, everything love, but it has to come from within out, because we have to be able to give what we have and give authentically. So we have to fill ourselves.
Yeah, you have to give authentically, and you have to give. This is the thing. What we've been doing is we've been giving from a place of lack and scarcity, instead of from a place of fullness. And part of the reason for that is because, especially women, we are hardwired to nurture. That's part of our biological nature. And we haven't really been in an environment since we entered the workforce where taking care of ourselves is seen as a good thing, or it's usually poo-pooed and oh, you need that. You're not as good as a man, et cetera, et cetera. And I know it's so sad, but it's. And so I think it's really just about getting back to that point where you realize instead of giving to the point of sacrifice, I need to take care of myself first and make sure that's in place, because then when I do give my gifts that I'm giving from a place of fullness, from a place of love, from a place of non-attachment. I don't have a neediness about it that's going on where there's some expectation in return. It's coming from a place of love, through love. And that's way more powerful. And we need that, especially women in particular. We need that right now more than anything. We need to come back to love, back to our place of fullness again, because that's where our power lies. That's definitely where our power.
That is brilliant. The way you express that is absolutely brilliant. It's beautiful. It could have been better said. Thank you so much. For us women, what would be some doable, actionable steps we could take in the next 24 hours to really overcome burnout, or for feeling self-care, or what would those be?
Yeah, so this is a really great question. I'm just trying to think of something that would be really impactful. I actually led a Burnout Rescue workshop the other day, and we talked about plugging your energy drains. So I guess if I could give somebody a really great practice to sit down and go through, is to write down a list of all of your energy drains. And this could be people, it could be things you're responsible for, like if you hate grocery shopping, for example, it's an energy drain. Write down grocery shopping, right? If you've got a negative coworker that you're just having a really tough time with, or a toxic work environment, write that down, right? So you write down all your energy drains on one sheet of paper, and then next to each one, figure out what could I do to plug that drain. And you might not have an answer that bubbles up right away. So just as an example, there are a couple of things that you could consider. You might want to delay that project, like maybe put it on the back burner and deprioritize it. That might be one option. Or maybe you want to decommit from it altogether and say, I'm opting out. Sorry, maybe you took on a volunteer position and it's too much. I'm opting out. Someone else is going to need to take this over, right? So you can decommit from it. You can also delegate it, which would be asking for help if you've got people in your home that can help out, or people in your organization that can help out, or hiring somebody to help you, right? And then there's a couple other things you can do too. If there's something that you could simplify, then figure out how to simplify that process. And I'll give you an example. Like I like grocery shopping, but I don't want to spend 3 hours every week grocery shopping. So I'd much rather order my groceries on Instacart and have it delivered than go out and get it myself. So I simplified that process. I still have to do grocery planning and go figure out what to enter into the app. So it's not completely hands-free, but I've saved myself 3 hours a week now, right? So that was one way I simplified things. Another way is just to automate it. Like in my business, for example, I'm always thinking about how can I work smart? How can I create passive streams of income that don't require as much of my one-on-one, or maybe remove me from the situation altogether? And so like creating an automated leads funnel that funnels people into a standalone program that they can do on their own. That would be one way to take myself out of the equation and automate something and simplify my life and allow me to do less and be more strategic, right? And so again, energy management is the focal point here. So you figure out what you can do to plug all those energy drains, and then you go about plugging those drains. And that will free up some space for you. And then you can ask yourself, okay, now what are energy fueling activities that I really should be doing on a regular basis to avoid burnout, that will also help fill in my life, the areas of my life that might be missing, And so you be strategic about it and figure out, how can I create practices and rituals that I can get the biggest bang for my buck in this free time that I'm creating. And then you see, over the course of a month, what does your life feel like with those energy drains being plugged? And what does it feel like with those energy fueling practices? And if you can just get really good at the art of energy management, where you're load balancing those energy fueling and energy draining activities, it will change the way that you show up in the world. You'll be able to give from that place of fullness that we're talking about. And since we're talking about all those saboteurs, right, the cellular memory stuff, here's the other thing. When a woman's her energy tanks are full, she has a much greater reservoir for compassion, for empathy, for understanding, for curiosity. There will be much less defensiveness, much less of the limiting beliefs and the toxic thoughts, like the saboteurs that we would typically feel. We're not going to feel that as much because we're operating on a full tank instead of an empty tank. Does that make sense?
Love that. No, it's absolutely brilliant. I love it. It's beautiful. That is awesome. All right. So I know you have very generously offered to give us a free gift. Could you expand on what that gift is, please?
Yes. So I'm offering a complimentary Burnout Rescue toolkit. And in the toolkit, you're going to get a couple things. You'll actually get an Enneagram assessment, so you can figure out what your personality type is. It comes with a workbook so that you can go in and learn a little bit about what your unique personality type is and how it might be potentially causing your life to be disintegrated or maybe leading to burnout. So that's going to be part of it. There's also a burnout assessment, so you can understand whether or not you're dealing with burnout and to what degree. And then I also threw in a self-care assessment in there so that you can actually, it's like a self-care assessment wheel where you go in and you measure your level of satisfaction in 12 different areas of your life. And then I have 108 ways to practice self-care that I'm throwing into the mix. There's a guided meditation for stress and anxiety. There's also 9 ways to say yes to you by learning how to set better boundaries with others. That's all part of the experience. And then it also comes with a 3-part training series on the 3 keys to becoming your own hero. So anybody who's interested in learning about this and signing up for it, you can just visit my website and submit your interest there. Just submit your email address and you'll be automatically added to my system, and it'll send you the Burnout Rescue Toolkit.
I love that. We'll have a link, but if viewers want to get access to that, your website, what's the name of the website so we can get to it?
Yes, it's www.radiantselfcare.com.
I love it. That was brilliant. It was so extremely generous. I love it. Sounds amazing. A must do.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you so much for your pearls of wisdom. And I love it. And I'm sure we will all want to love to go on your website and get the toolkit and get your free gift and find out more about you. Thank you so much, Jess. You've been amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome, Jacqueline. It's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye. I love you. Bye. Bye.